There's no questions. Oh. There's no questions. I'm going to just stand here and have technical difficulties with everything I own.
So what sections do we have to have finished by the test up until 8.1?
Yeah, just up till 8.1. 8.1 has actually got a decent amount of stuff in it, which is why I got a few days to cover it, you know. And then 8.2, 8.3. So 8.1 is sort of the definitions and making graphs of statistics. And then 8.2, 8.3 is the analysis, the data analysis. Yeah, like calculating averages and stuff. Yeah. Yay. So that's what will be on the next test. So yeah, it's just through 8.1 homework that you need to have done for this coming up test. By the way, just to let you know, it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm going to have a practice test for you guys, and then next Tuesday will be, I'll have an answer key for the practice test. Next Tuesday is just review for the test. There won't be anything new next Tuesday. And then, of course, Wednesday is the test. All right. Just one. Yes. This is the sheet I gave out last time. This is the first part of it. So, decimals to percentages, of course, always involves moving the decimal place twice. Why? It's based on 100, right? So percent means per 100. So you can actually think of it like if I see 160%, that means divided by 100. So of course the decimal would then be 1.6, because that's what 160 divided by 100 is. But even better than that, when you divide or multiply by multiples of 10, you just move the decimal around. And then I showed you that shortcut with if you write decimal and percentage, you go that way, you move the decimal that way, you move that way, you move the decimal that way. So this little thing from yesterday, if you write decimal percent, so if I'm going from a decimal to a percent, 0.071, I move the decimal that way. Twice, because it's all based on 100. Are you guys loving that as much as you should? That makes it so freaking easy, right? Bam, bam, 7.1%. If I want to go the other way, this one's always confusing to people. It looks really small already, but it's going to get even freaking smaller. I'm going from percent to decimal, so I got to move the decimal place that way. Bam, bam. So it's going to be 0.0003 as a decimal. What is that as a fraction?
3 over 1,000.
Yeah, tenths, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. I like it. Okay? So if you ever hear 3 parts per 10,000, and very often you hear like 3 parts per million or something, have you ever heard that kind of phrase before? 3 parts, if I said 3 parts per 10,000, that is 0.03%. That is a very small amount compared to whatever else is there, right? Could be enough to kill you, whatever the hell it is, but oh well, just be careful. Okay. So, how do I do this first couple? They're both kind of the same problem, really. How do I do those? Yeah, that'll work. Multiply by 100, or just move the decimal over. Bam, bam. So that becomes what percent? 46%. So of course this one we might as well do it at the same time. It's the same problem, really. That becomes 35%. What is it as a fraction? 46 over 100, which you can reduce. And this will be 35 over 100, which you can reduce. Cool, I like it. I actually say, very often I'll say don't reduce these. Because some of you guys know your fraction buttons on your calculator, which is nice, but I want you working with the freaking fractions, so I'd rather actually see this to make sure that you really are doing, and some of you guys know the percentage button, all this kind of other stuff, all these buttons that do stuff for us. Screw those buttons. I want you doing it yourself. So what about this? Now note, I want to show you something about this. if I wanted to put this as a fraction first, percentage means what? Percentage means per 100. So what is wrong if I think the answer to the fraction is this? That is not right. Do you see where I got that? 12.5% is 12.5 over 100. But that's not a fraction. That's not a fraction. A fraction is defined to be a ratio of whole numbers. Oh shit. So one way to take care of that is, I want to move this decimal over once. How do I move the decimal over once? I multiply it by 10. Well, if I multiply the top by 10, I better freaking multiply the bottom by 10. So if I'm going to move the decimal once, I better move this decimal once. Now it's 125 over 1,000. All right, let me let that sink in for a minute. There's nothing wrong with that. You can always make percent over 100, but if the top is a decimal, you better move that until it ain't a decimal. I like it. I know math, but I don't be knowing grammar. Sorry. If you went this way instead, it actually works beautifully also. Of course, how do you change this to a decimal? Multiply by 100, just move it back. Divide by 100, be careful. Move it back twice. So it becomes 0.125, is that cool? And of course, what place is this in? Thousands. So of course I get 125 over 1,000. Either way I do it, I get 125 over 1,000. Alright, let me stop there for a minute. Alright, so again, this is not intense math, but you do have to be familiar with multiply and divide by multiples of 10, but those are beautiful. Our number system is based on 10. So working with 10 should be easy, because it's based on 10. Because I keep doing this because we have 10 fingers. That's why our number system is based on 10. If we had 8 fingers, our number system would somehow be based on 8. And if you take me for 120, I teach you what that would look like. If we had 16 fingers anyway. If you keep going. If we had 16 fingers, gloves would look freaky. A lot of material has to be used. So this one is sort of the same idea, right? How do you change this to a decimal? Bam, bam. 375. So what would it be as a fraction?
375 over 1,000.
And if you wanted to, you could reduce it. I don't care. I'm not really testing you on that. You could reduce it, great. But show me this first. Alright. What about this dude? Why is this one easier than that one?
It's almost half of 100.
Yeah, so how do you make the bottom 100? Yeah, multiply by 2. So you get what out of what?
1,400.
Sounds like the start of a motivational speech. Alright, everybody. We can do it. You can do it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Is it going to stop? Okay, it is going to stop. Okay. So then, that was just 14 out of 100 is what percent? Because percent is defined to be
14%.
out of 100. I love it. So 14. So if I call out of 100, if I use the word percent, 14%. Bam. That's beautiful. And then as a decimal, what would it be? Yeah, for 2 reasons. Move this over twice, or just write that as a decimal. I mean, they both agree, thank God. Cool. This one I think we did, didn't we? Or we talked about it or something? We didn't do that one? Alright. Thank you. Somebody's agreeing with it. Pretty sure we did. You do this long division. Or you just put it in the calculator if I'm letting you use the calculator. Right? And what do you get? What was it? 0.225?
22.5%.
Yeah, I knew we did it.
Yeah.
So if you do that, you get 0.225. And then how do you make that into a percent? Once, twice? 22.5%. I love it. So do the long division or just put it in the calculator. Yes, ma'am.
I also put 1,000 on the bottom, and then did 40 times 25, and then did at the top?
Yeah, sure.
Can I still have this again?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, if you make the bottom any multiple of 100, even if you make the bottom 10, you could then take the next step and make it into a decimal or something, right? I love it. So if you can make it into 100, it goes right into a percentage. But if you make it in any multiple of 10, it goes right into a decimal. And then the decimal is easy to make into a percentage. Kick ass. There are more ways to do this than the ways I'm showing you. That's for sure. And that's what math is all about, is finding your own way and making that yours, right? You make math your own. Here's a motivational speech. Make math yours. This is why I teach instead of that. Then we talked about this one, right? 160% would be
1.60.
good. 1.60 or just 1.6. And then you have a few options. 160% is 160 as a fraction over 100. Percent is 100, period. The percentage symbol doesn't give a shit what's in front of it. It's whatever's in front of it over 100. Because that's what percent means. Don't worry that there's 3 numbers instead of the usual 2. The percentage symbol doesn't change what it means. So it's whatever over 100. So it's 160 over 100. And then you can reduce this, right? 16 tenths, 8, whatever. But the other way to look at it is, what's 1.6 as a mixed number? 1 and 6 tenths. So somehow these are the same thing. 160 over 100 is somehow equal to 1 and 6 tenths. And of course it is. Is everybody cool with that? 160 over 100 would be 16 over 10. 10 goes into 16 once with 6 left over. So of course they're the same thing. So there are multiple ways of getting the same answer. They just look different. And then you can reduce it. Right? Yes, I love this. It's the same problem. Just making sure you got the point in the last one. I love it. So this one, bam, bam, 2.4%. So then it's going to be either 240 over 100 or 2 and 4 tenths. Get out of there, percentage. Yes. What does percent mean? What does percent mean? Over 100. So that's what I meant. 7% is 7 over what? 100. Even though there's just one number there. What's up? Is that all right? All right. You look pain. I was making sure. 11% is 11 over 100. 8,381% is 8,381 over 100 is crazy. Because percent means per 100. The idea of percent can't change just because the number changed. Please let that make sense. I like it. So what is a percent as a fraction? A percent. A is a variable. A over 100. I love it. It's an A. Whatever that is, it's that thing over 100. Jeff percent is Jeff over 100. Alright, cool. So now, how do I change that into a percent?
Move it to the right 2 spots?
Yes, move it. Bam, bam. So it's 826%. I like it. Let that make sense, because 1 would be 1 whole is 100%. So 8 is like 800%. So that makes sense. And then as a fraction, you got a couple ways to do it. What's one way?
26 over 100.
Kick ass. 826 over 100, or good. 8 and 26 hundredths. Be careful, that's in the hundred spot. Yeah. Alright. Yes, ma'am.
It went from 826 over 100 to 826 still over 100.
Totally. Because the 26 is in the what place? 2 6 tenths hundredths.
Oh.
And also look at this. What's 100 times 8?
800.
Plus 26? Holy shit. Okay. Alright. Math always comes back, it has to be contained. It has to make sense within itself. So this is the same problem, right? So bam, bam. So it'll be what percent?
642.
642%. So then 642 out of 100, or
6 and 42.
yeah, there's 6 and 42 hundredths. Ah, okay. All right, sweet. Let that be simple. Now we get a little bit harder, but some of you guys kind of caught on to what I was saying, because as I was walking around the room, the people that are trying to do the is over of, there's nothing wrong with that. But I've seen that people make more mistakes with that than needs to be made. You got to be careful about what the is, what the of is. Good Lord, right? What's your definition for is? No, sorry. No? All right. Monocules? No. Okay. To me, the easiest way to do this is to just directly translate it into math, because it's one step. It's one little tiny step away from math. 9%. Well, that's no good. What is that as an actual number? What is 9%? 0.09. Of means what? Times. What?
X.
X. Is. Equals. 828. 828. I love it. That's beautiful. That was easy. And then we haven't officially talked about how to solve equations, but these are not, this is one step away from solved. You gotta like that. How do I kill that 0.09? Divide by, because right now it's multiplying by x. I don't want this here, so I'm going to divide by it. And we did this yesterday. What was it?
2,900. 9,200.
9,200. There it is. How are we doing there? Is that cool? Now, if you like the is over of and you got the same answer doing it and you're cool with it, keep going. Keep doing it. The is over of would look like this. The is number is 828. Over of, the of number is I don't know, equals the percent over 100. And then you can cross multiply and blah, blah, blah. But to me, that's just, there's so many places to make a mistake there. So what about this next one? 175 is, how do I write that so far?
175
Equals,
35x.
yeah, be careful. 0.35 times, I don't know. And then again, you divide by the crap you don't want. And what do you get there when you do
500.
that? 500. Okay. Yeah, so every single one of these. That next one is exactly the same problem. Right? 104 is 0.26 of what? Divide by 0.26. You get something or other. 2,000. 2 something.
400.
400. Right.
Yeah.
Let's take a wild guess. Oh yeah, double. Okay. Is that cool? You guys see how that works? I mean, every single one of these, there's just one thing I don't know, so I'm going to put an X in that place. What's up, sir?
Starting to see it.
Sweet. I like that. That's good.
Well, we didn't get it yesterday.
Shit. All right. Well, good today is good. So what percent X of 24? So times 24. Let's put that where I normally would, right? Is that cool? What percent of 24 means multiply those? Is 9. So then you can divide by 24. 3/8, so it'd be
37.5.
37.5. It'll come out to be 0.375, but then you can make it into a percentage, right? It comes out as a decimal. I like it. You stop there for a second. Just where I put my X changes, because each problem I have a different thing I don't know. That's the only thing that changes. Everything else is the same. It's too nice to believe. Alright, this is the same problem, really. Right? You'll end up doing 15 divided by 24, and you'll get 62.5. It's the same problem we just did. It's just got a 15 instead of a 9. You guys see that? It'll come out the same way. I'm going to pretend like you've seen that. Same problem we just... Alright, I'm not going to get any reaction from you guys. I'll just keep going. So again, this one we sort of already did a problem like this. 88 is what percent of 80? And then you just divide. Now, real quick. 80 is what percent of 80? 80 is what percent of 80? If you had 80 people and all of them like you, what percent of them like you? 100%. Alright. 88 must be what percent of 80 then? Higher or lower than 100%?
Higher.
Higher, because it's a bigger number. Now, of course, it doesn't make any sense when I talk about people. There's 80 people, and 88 of them like you. Like, holy shit, 8 of your imaginary friends showed up. But this makes sense, like with if we made $80,000 last year, and now we made $88,000 this year. What was the percent? What percent of that is from last year? I mean, do you guys see? I mean, so you can talk about things. Things can increase by more than 100%. Does that sort of make sense? Okay. So it doesn't make sense in some cases, but percentages apply to more things than just what you can count. So then I can divide by 80, right? And then you get
1.1.
110. Yeah, 1.1, which is 110%. I gave it 110%, coach. Even though mathematically it's not possible. Yes.
Can we write 1.8% or
Do it again.
1.8, 1.1%?
No, definitely not. 1% of 80 would be 8, right? This is 88. I mean, that's a lot more. I mean, actually 10% of 80 would be 8. 1% of 80 would be 0.8. I mean, so if I get 1.1, that is a decimal currently. I can then change it into a percentage. You can't just throw a percentage on something. You have to move the decimal place.
Probably would appear when you explained it, but in the 1.1, you move it over twice because you need to get it to the hundredth place.
Because you're changing it by a factor of 100 always. A percentage symbol means divide by 100. So when I'm changing to a percentage, I actually multiply by 100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when I go this way, I divide by 100. When I go that way, I multiply by 100. So that's why it's always moving by twice. Good. And we knew it was going to come out to be more than 100%. So this 110% makes sense. All right. You guys look so oppressed. Same problem here, right? 66 is what percent of 40 divided by 40, and you get 165?
Yes.
So you get 1.65, 165%, hopefully. What did I do? I divided by 2, got 33 out of 20, multiplied by 5, so it's out of 100. 33 times 5 is 165. Bam! And you're all like, that's nice, Jeff, whatever. Okay, I'm not saying you have to do that.
We can.
You can, you should be able to, but you don't have to. Okay, so any questions from that sheet? I mean, that's not that horrible, right? All right. So we're about to get into chapter 8. So is there anything lingering from earlier chapters before we get into chapter 8? No, good. Can somebody crank the lights back up for me? Thanks, man. Say again?
1.8, right?
What's 1.8?
Chapter 1.8.
8.1? What's 1.8? Is there a 1.8?
Oh no, you mean 8. Never mind.
Yeah, 8.1. I was like, there's no 1.8. Wait a minute. Okay. That was freaking me out. So let me ask you this. This course is a course, we talked about this before, and you all realize this course is an experimental course. That's why it's got the number 298. That's like the experimental course number, right? So we are going to get into statistics a little bit. We are going to do some really basic ideas of statistics. We're not going to get too deep into calculations. We're not going to get as deep into calculations as this book does. We're going to look at some basic graphs and stuff. So if you take statistics after this course, you got a little bit of a head start going in. You will get deeper into the calculations, you'll get a little deeper into the concepts, but this gives you a nice little intro, so you kind of know what the hell the words mean. What do you guys know about statistics in general? I mean, anybody know anything about statistics? You know that you hear about them every damn day, right? You can't escape them. They're everywhere.
Based on your observations?
Yeah, good. So they're supposed to be based on observations of actual people or things, right? Measurements made or questions asked and answers given. Right now, of course, what's really out there a lot, statistic-wise?
Election polls?
Who?
Election polls?
Election polls. I'm sorry, I didn't quite... And you said... Politics, yes, definitely. Because anybody keeping up with the election coming up? Anybody going to vote for the first time this coming election? Ah, look at you, appropriately excited. All right. I remember the first time I voted, I put that... I voted, yes I did. I didn't like any of them, but still. I picked somebody.
Don't like any of them. Say something.
There was one of them that I didn't hate as much as the other ones. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to introduce you to politics, but that's normally the way it goes. I don't hate this one as much as that one, so I'll take that one. Okay. Oh, really? Christmas tree approach is, and that's how we end up in certain situations. Because too many people do that. All right. So right now you'll see stuff like in this poll, Clinton is going to, 38% of people say they're going to vote for Clinton, and 39% say they're going to vote for Trump, and then there's like some other people, and actually there's a lot of other people. Do you have any idea, real quick, give a guess as to how many actual presidential candidates that have filed all the appropriate paperwork? How many of those are there? How many of those are there?
Smaller than we imagined.
No. Huh?
8 or 5?
No. Higher. Higher.
Wow, why is it?
1,861. 1,861 presidential candidates exist in this country. Do you remember the California governor race a while back? And there were like 100 some odd candidates. There was a porn star. There was Gary Coleman. There was who knows, right? Do you guys? Those are the two that stick out in my brain. But there were 105, I think, total.
I remember hearing about some adult film actor or actress running for a position. I was just like,
Yes. Yes.
I don't know what to think of that.
And of course, just to get the name out there, I'm sure. But there are more parties than you know. Period. There just is. I don't think any of you know all the parties. I don't know all of them, and there are like 20 some odd that I've researched recently for in my stats class. We're doing a lot of election stuff, which kind of makes sense to me, and I want them to be aware of how many freaking parties exist. It's amazing. How many parties do you know of?
3.
There's the Republican Party, Democrat, Green. I like it. Green, Libertarians. Those are the big four. Those are the four that people normally know about.
Does the Tea Party count as a party?
Say again?
Tea Party? Does that count?
Nah, sort of, not really. They don't put forth their own candidates, but they support candidates of like the Republican Party. There's like, for example, did you know there's a Communist Party in America? There is a Socialist Party in America. Yes. There are actually some Whigs left. I don't know if you know about the Whigs. There's something called the American Freedom Party. There's the Constitution Party, the Conservative Party.
And they all have people on the ballot?
They all have people on the ballot.
That's
Yes.
incredible.
I know. And each of them have multiple. How many Democratic candidates for president are there? You're wrong. There's about 20 some odd. How many do you know of? One. But there are people that have filed who are Democrats. They just weren't put forth by the Democratic National Committee, so that you don't hear about them. Anyway. So we're not going to get into all of the how should things be and how many parties should be and what should happen and who should be included in the debates and all that kind of crap. We're going to focus on the numbers, right? So what I want to do, getting away from politics for a minute, which is really hard to do nowadays. Let me take you on a little journey to talk about definitions. So I try to do this definition stuff in the context of actually doing some analysis. So normally what we do, for example, well, let's come back to politics. We just worked. When they say 38% of people look like they're going to vote for Hillary Clinton, did somebody ask you? Was anybody called up and asked? All right, so who are they talking about, though, when they say that? What group are they talking about? All right, good. So that's the people that they actually talked to, but the way they present it is like everybody. So there's two different groups there. There is everybody I'm trying to say something about, and then there's the subgroup of that I actually talked to, right? Does that right there make sense? Because let's say, what do you want to say about all the students at Grossmont? Is there something you're curious about, all the students at Grossmont? It could be anything. It could be election-wise. It could be the average shoe size. It could be how many of them drive a BMW, what percentage. What do you guys want to know about the students at Grossmont? Anything? Or you're like, I don't want to know shit, man. I know too much. Some of these people, man, I hear their phone conversations. I'm like, you really should take that somewhere else. I don't want to. Anything you want to know?
How many people drive to school?
Say again?
How many people drive to school?
All right. So let's make that into what percentage of Grossmont students drive to school versus walk or take a bus or